Zaccharie Risacher has had a fascinating pre-draft season. Coming into this year, his offense was a question mark at best. There would be flashes of intrigue, but nothing sustained that we could consistently point to as his go-to thing. The shot making was inconsistent. The playmaking was inconsistent. The handle was inconsistent. The at rim finishing was inconsistent. This year, though, things really changed, and he took a massive step in versatility and effectiveness on the offensive end. Now, unfortunately, Risacher still has a long way to go to be an on-ball creator. And when we talk about the number one overall pick, that's typically what we hope for. We hope for a franchise cornerstone that can run the offense, that can get their own shot, that can create for others. And it doesn't look like that's who Risacher is going to be, at least yet. Maybe a couple years from now, you never want to put a cap on what a player could potentially grow into, but it's also important to properly set expectations. This season, Risacher had an assist to turnover ratio of 0.57. Additionally, only 5.5% of his possessions came in the pick and roll or isolation. On dribble jumpers, Risacher also really struggled as he shot just 30.4% off the bounce compared to 41% off the catch. In the half court, attacking the rim, that's where we really saw Risacher's lack of explosiveness and finishing consistency show up as he shot just 54.4% at the rim in the half court. It's really concerning stuff if we're projecting Risacher to be that historical number one offensive engine. It just doesn't look like that's who he's going to be, at least early. Maybe years from now he gets there, but it's going to be an uphill battle. The fascinating thing with Risacher, though, is how much he improved as an off-ball scorer. Now, I mentioned the on-ball reps, 5.5% only on-ball. That means the rest came off-ball, and he was really effective. The biggest improvement with him was the shot off the catch. Now, I know that he went through about a month to 6 weeks of a shooting slump, and his percentages really plummeted from previously. He was at about 47, 48% from three, and those numbers obviously dropped. Now, there were a lot of victory laps being taken at that time, and it felt weird. It was unwarranted because, of course, a guy who's never had a great track record of shooting is going to finish the year shooting near 50% from three. It was never reasonable or realistic to expect that from him. However, after 65 games and 236 three-point attempts, Risacher still finished the year shooting 39.4% from three. That is incredible volume. It's over double the amount of games that we get from most college prospects. So for him to never be a shooter and still finish at near 40% on really high volume is incredibly encouraging moving forward. The tricky thing with Risacher is properly setting these expectations. This was the most effective he's ever been on offense in his entire basketball career, and it's a big reason why he's in discussion for the top overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. As an off-ball scorer, Risacher shows a lot of promise. He consistently attacked closeouts, the shot off the catch looked better, and we had a lot of flashes of second side creation. Let's figure out what's real, what worked, what didn't, and what Risacher can bring to an NBA offense. I'm Tyler Metcalf. Welcome to Film School. Let's dive in. The biggest development that Risacher made in his game this season was his transformation into being a really reliable spot-up and off-ball shooter. Shooting off the catch, Risacher ranked in the 81st percentile in points per shot attempt this year and shot 40.7% from three. Now, overall, Risacher only ranked in the 56th percentile in spot-up scoring, which Synergy still classifies as good. But on three-point attempts, when spotting up, Risacher shot 41.4% from three on 169 attempts. That level of volume and efficiency and consistency is more than nearly anyone expected from Risacher heading into this year. Risacher's mechanics are still a little funky, but funky mechanics are okay, as long as they're comfortable and consistent. And this year, that's what they were for Risacher. Not only did Risacher improve his reliability and his consistency as a shooter, but he also sped up his release time. When he catches the ball, he's immediately getting into his release and letting it fly in the blink of an eye. This makes closeouts so much more difficult for defenders and really improves his versatility and impact as an off ball shooter. Risacher's ability to consistently relocate and find those open pockets on the perimeter, paired with his improved shooting, is incredibly important for his long term value. So even though Risacher may not have big time on ball creation upside going forward, the fact that he can now point to his spot up shooting as a legitimate bona fide skill is so important. Even more impressive with Risacher's spot up shooting development, it was his implementation of some no dip catch and shoot threes this year. This is a really tough skill to develop, and it typically takes elite shooting prospects a couple years to even get to the point of trying this because of how kind of uncomfortable and unnatural this is. So the fact that Risacher is doing this in his first season, shooting at a prolific rate, at a high percentage, is really, really encouraging. So as Risacher catches this pass, it's a little high, it's not in his shooting pocket, but it doesn't really affect him. The ball never comes below his shoulders. He keeps it high, immediately gets into his shot, and lets it fly. The defender here doesn't have much to close out to, but Risacher's ability to release without the dip here speeds the whole process up and lets him knock down that open three. Again, we can see the importance of Risacher's sped up release here. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny dip, but it doesn't come below the shoulders, and the speed of the release and the shot prep here is fantastic. So broken play, offensive rebound, clock's winding down. Risacher knows that on this kick out, he has less than a second and a half to get the shot off, and he's ready. Hands are up, feet are ready, catches it at probably about at his shoulders, but he doesn't bring it down. He immediately goes up, and when he's catching this, there's 0.2 seconds left on the shot clock. Maybe should have been called for a shot clock violation, but he gets away with it. Quick release, gets the shot off, knocks it down. This sped up release not only makes it more difficult for defenders to close out on him and get contests in, but it also makes him a more legitimate and kind of deadly threat in these late clock situations where he has to get a shot off in the blink of an eye. Another really fun development in Risacher's off-ball shooting and off-ball scoring is how much better he was and how much more versatile and effective he was when running off screens. This season, Risacher ranked in the 67th percentile in off-screen points per possession and shot 52.2% from two and 37.5% from three. Now, the volume on the three-point attempts was pretty low, but this movement and the comfort level, the shot prep, is really encouraging here. As he gets his handoff, just a quick little 1-2, solid shooting base, upper body mechanics are really consistent with all of the shots off the catch that we just saw. Quickly rises into it, is confident, he's on balance, and he gets the shot off before his defender can get over the screen. And it's really good recognition of the drop defender too, because as Risacher's curling off the screen, he knows that his defender is going over both of those and he's chasing him over. So he is immediately looking at this defender who, right on the catch, is taking a step back. Risacher knows that his defender's going over and that he has this window. So his ability to quickly set his feet, elevate, and keep his mechanics fluid and connected throughout the release allows him to get off this look and splash the three. Just really solid and consistent stuff from Risacher here. Risacher's off-screen scoring wasn't solely limited to shooting from outside either. Borg loved running him off these pin downs out of the corner to get him downhill. Risacher had a lot of struggles driving and creating his own shot and creating through physicality on his own. But by putting him in situations like this, where he's consistently running off these screens into the middle of the floor, he's able to get the ball going downhill, attack space, and have the space created for him because of this screen. Out of these situations, he's able to show occasionally some different looks too, where it wasn't just curling towards the middle. That was obviously his go-to, as we see throughout this clip. But Being able to do this comfortably and consistently is a good testament to the different ways that Risacher can be used in an off ball role going forward. He's clearly comfortable sprinting off screens, catching on the go, and having the space created for him and doing something out of these situations and reading the defense correctly, like we just saw there. It is a bummer that he can't at least yet, can't consistently create his own shot and does need these screens, whether on ball, but even off ball, to create that type of space. But it's also an indication of the different ways that he can be used and put in motion when he doesn't have the ball at an NBA level. The biggest hole in Risacher's shooting game is still his pull-up shooting. Now, his numbers weren't awful this year, but shooting just 34.8% on 46 pull-up three-pointers a game, or not a game, excuse me, in totality on the season, they're not awesome numbers. And Risacher isn't this overly dynamic ball handler and on-ball creator, but there were flashes like this that were a lot of fun. One of Risacher's go-to moves all year, and we'll see it a couple times throughout this video, is that step-back three going to his left. So the ball's just going to swing to him, and Risacher just kind of goes to work here. 8 seconds left, 7 seconds up here. So not enough time to reset the offense, get into anything. Risacher knows that he just kind of has to get a shot. He has to get a look here, and he does. So a little shot fake gets the defender off his feet, gets him to bite, and Risacher knows now that he can do some different stuff here and manipulate the defender's momentum now that he has him off balance. So another little jab step sends the defender the other way. Now Risacher can go to his left, which is his preferred dribble move and his go-to pull-up move all season. Plants that, let's go back just one quick second. Plants that right foot, explodes back to his left, creates even more space after sending the defender the wrong way. Narrow base here. You want that to be a little stronger, but he's able to elevate. The upper body mechanics are really consistent yet again, and he drops in the three. So this is the kind of stuff as a second side creator and a tertiary on-ball scorer. This is the type of stuff that we want to see from Risacher and hopefully continue to develop and grow on. As we always discuss, being an awesome spot-up shooter is really important, but you have to be able to do something when the defense runs you off the line. That's one of the bigger questions with Risacher right now, too. There were certainly flashes, and we'll go through some of those flashes here right now. But when Risacher was spotting up, overall he scored 0.952 points per possession. When he took a no-dribble jumper in those spot-up situations, he scored 1.216 points per possession. That is fantastic. However, when he drove to his right, he scored just 0.638, and when he drove to his left, just 0.717. That is those are really concerning numbers for someone of his size and of his draft pedigree. Additionally, in the half court, Risacher shot just 54.4% at the rim and 38.1% on runners. Those are concerning numbers that speak to the potential limitations in his scoring repertoire and his on-ball creation and his overall offensive upside, along with the concerning athletic testing numbers that he had at the combine. So there are flashes, though. There are flashes of handle, of scoring versatility, and finishing through contact, as we see here. So as this ball swings out to Risacher, he does a good job of just kind of lifting out of the corner, making himself available for the ball handler as his defender rotates and tags here on the pick and roll. On the catch, since Risacher has been an awesome shooter all year, the defender has a relatively aggressive closeout, which Risacher really confidently and decisively attacks. This is the type of stuff that we want to see from him. We just didn't get consistently throughout the season. So as Risacher attacks downhill, this is perfect. This is exactly what you want to see from your kind of primary off-ball scorer. As he gets downhill, does a really good job of killing his momentum to not commit the charge. It rises up straight, drops in the floater. From start to finish, this is the type of stuff that we want to see from Risacher. We just didn't get it nearly consistently enough. Again, Risacher shows us a bit of craft, a bit of creativity. and decisiveness when attacking this closeout. So as the ball is going to swing, his defender is real deep in the paint here and has a long way to go to recover. It'd be great if this was a one pass to Risacher. He'd probably get an open three out of it, but it makes a stop in between and swings to him, which, continues to draw the closeout. And instead of launching off the catch here, Risacher just goes to meet the ball and attacks all this space in the middle of the floor as his defender gets lost on the closeout. As Risacher attacks downhill, he does a really good job of avoiding the solid weak side rotation, plants with his with his right foot, extends through with his left, finishes through the contact, and is really decisive and fluid with his movements. So this weak side rotation can't really heavily contest the shot as much as he would like. From start to finish, this is just a nice kind of blend of decisiveness and creativity that Risacher has in his game, just needs to expose it and use it a little more frequently. Another kind of hole in Risacher's scoring game is a pretty big lack of a mid-range shooting game. In the half court this year, Risacher only took 22 jump shots from between the rim and 17 feet and shot just 13.6% on them. From 17 feet to the three-point line, so like long mid-range jumpers, he only took 31 of them and shot just 38.7%. So this play is certainly an outlier in the totality of Risacher's season, but it's also one of those kind of flashes that we hope that he can continue to build on. So right off the catch, this is a tough kick out for Risacher to receive. As an off-ball shooter, you want this ball about 5 feet lower in your shooting pocket. We've seen Risacher throughout this video being able to adjust well, but having to jump for that ball allows the defender to close out a little more effectively and takes him out of his shooting rhythm. So as he comes down, he does a really good job of just attacking that closeout, making it easy and plain simple. He doesn't force a bad shot off balance and off platform. He just gets to a spot and gets rid of this defender with an aggressive dribble move here. Eats up the space confidently and smoothly, gets into his jumper, elevates, banks it in off the glass. We didn't see a ton of this from Risacher this year, but these are the type of flashes, again, that we hope that he can continue to build on to warrant that top 3 selection he frequently gets mentioned in. Now, this is the type of dribble move that may look a little familiar because we just literally just saw it from him, but this is where some of Risacher's upside in terms of attacking closeouts gets really, really fun. That's a nasty move. This is really, really advanced for someone who's never been a good off-ball shooter. So as the play con develops, Risacher is yet again over here on the weak side. Common position for him to be in all season. They're just going to run that little side pick and roll, and Risacher's defender helps really aggressively into the paint to take away the roller. Ball handler does a good job of staring down the roller, moves that defender even a little further, and makes the well-timed skip pass to a wide-open Risacher. Risacher probably could have let that fly right off the catch, but instead he wants to create even more space. So a little jab step freezes the defender. Defender was trying to force him middle. He thought Risacher was going middle, and now Risacher is attacking against his momentum and attacking that high foot, which is making the ability for this defender to recover even more difficult. Risacher does a really good job. Let me just back that up so we can see where he plants. Attacks that high foot, plants with his right foot, and explodes back to the corner. Lands really comfortably on that left foot. This is a ton of space that he's now created from his defender. Upper body mechanics are yet again really consistent. They're still really funky, but as long as they're funky every single time and they're comfortable for Risacher and the results are there, who cares? Everything is fluid. He rises up into it. Great release point. Everything's fluid. Knocks it down. One more time. Risacher loves the step back going to his left. He did it a lot this year. It's kind of his go-to move. NBA teams will eventually scout that out of his game, but having that be part of his game this early is really encouraging. Risacher continued to prove to be a problem for off-ball defenders because of his further improved ability as a cutter along with his shooting. The floor recognition that we saw in his spot-up shooting, his ability to relocate on the perimeter, find those open pockets, also helped him and also translated to his off-ball scoring and his off-ball cutting. This season, Risacher ranked in the 60th percentile in points per possession with 1.27 on cuts. He shot 60% on cuts. For someone who does have some concerns about his ability to create on ball and finish through contact, little things like this, that off-ball movement, that ability to consistently find cutting lanes and open pockets for him to be an outlet to his teammates, it's a great way for him to get easy buckets at the paint without having to create them for himself. It also really further tests the off-ball defenders because they have to worry about him as a shooter and also as a cutter. If defenders get caught ball watching, he can either relocate to the corner or above the break for an open three, or cut and get an easy bucket at the rim. It's just a further diversification of Risacher's overall significantly improved off-ball scoring this year. What's really fun about Risacher's off-ball movement is that it can create great looks for himself, but it can also bolster his playmaking potential. So as we see here, as you know, Borg is just going to run this kind of side pick and roll. I love this from Risacher's defender. Nothing better than a guy who's ball watching and then pointing to his man who's about to immediately lose him. So Risacher sees that all eyes are on the ball here and that there's a lot of space in the middle of the floor. So he cuts from the corner into this open space. His defender's a step late to recognize it, so he's late to close out, doesn't have his hands up. Risacher has his eyes up and knows that since his defender stepped up away from the rim, all of the restricted area is completely unoccupied. He has his eyes up and sees his teammate crashing from the opposite wing. Quick pass, easy layup. Again, this isn't rocket science stuff, but it's stuff that helps elevate an offense and makes players like Risacher incredibly malleable for any NBA offense. Now, if you remember from the intro of this video, Risacher's playmaking numbers aren't really that encouraging and don't necessarily suggest that he has a whole lot of playmaking upside to him, as he has had an assist to turnover ratio of just 0.57. Not a great indicator of a high-level passer. However, as we just saw in that last clip and these next couple, these are the types of situations where Risacher's passing can really be elevated and implemented to help a team when he's put in movement and creating for others after attacking closeouts and attacking defensive lapses. So this is another area where Risacher had shown flashes of real important growth in terms of attacking closeouts and leveraging that off-ball scoring to now create for others instead of just himself. So as Borg just runs this high pick and roll, big time skip pass here. Risacher's defender has both feet in the lane. Risacher's going to catch. Short closeout. So not the Risacher's attack here is a little predetermined, which is concerning. It'd be nice to see him, a little jab step, freeze the defender a extra second and let the three fly. But his mind's made up still. He drives, beats the defender to the spot still, plays through the physicality here, and attracts the secondary rotation. The rotation didn't really feel necessary given how Risacher's buried under the rim already, but Risacher does a really good job of not panicking, elevates, contorts his body, shifts the position of the ball. He knows that he has two defenders on him and knows that his teammate has circled into the middle of the lane to make himself available. Risacher rewards him. They get the easy dunk. So one more time, full speed. Great skip pass. Predetermined drive, but really good adjustment and find on the after attacking that closeout. Again, we see Risacher really do a really good job of leveraging his shooting gravity and ability to attack downhill to create for a teammate. On the catch here, Risacher's defender is closing out hard. He just attacks middle. He takes the space afforded to him, doesn't force it, and it plays simple. As he drives, his defender is now lost, and the secondary rotation is going to be mandatory now. As that defender steps up, Risacher does a little or utilizes a little head fake, gets the defender in the air to really free up his teammate, delivers a perfect dump off pass. His teammate goes up, doesn't get the bucket, but draws a hard foul. And all of this is created by Risacher's ability to just make the easy read and attack downhill. Risacher's interior passing isn't exclusively limited to dump offs, though, either, as we see him throw just a really solid lob here. So out of the inbounds, Risacher is going to be in more of an on-ball creator role and just run this little side pick and roll and attacks the middle of the floor. Decent screen frees him up, puts the drop defender in a little cat and mouse game. Borg now has a 2v1 situation going downhill, and Risacher just takes whatever the defense gives him. As he drives, he sees the defender gets caught in no man's land and knows that there's a lot of space up here. He delivers a perfect lob where only his teammate can get it, and they get the dunk. So this is a little bit more of a on-ball creator role, or even secondary second side creator type of role, but it's just a further kind of evolution and growth and diversification of Risacher's playmaking. And it's situations like this one where we can see the further diversification and variety that Risacher provides as that off-ball mover and second side creator. So they don't get a shot off here, but Risacher is going to run down this pin down that we just saw him run off a ton of times and, really do a good job of getting downhill to score for himself. But as he comes off the spin down, his defender goes under the screen. So instead of curling towards the middle of the floor, he has the awareness to kind of settle back towards the wing and attack baseline instead. So his defender flips his hips, reuses the screen, and the drop defender is really, really aggressive and is pressuring Risacher, while the help defender is having to rotate all the way down to the restricted area because Risacher's primary defender got hung up on the screen and went over. That means that this defender, or that this teammate for Risacher is going to be open on the wing. Risacher is reading what the weak side defense is doing because he'd love to deliver this pocket pass, but knows that based on where these three defenders are, that's not going to be feasible, but that the skip pass is. He has his eyes up, showcases his passing ability, perfect pass right in the shooting pocket. Unfortunately, he kicks out to a non-shooter who doesn't let this fly. In an NBA context, this should be a wide open three, but he overthinks it, hesitates, and they don't get an open look. Too frequently when we talk about playmaking, we always look at it through the lens of a heliocentric creator or a point guard or a primary wing creator, and not enough as a secondary creator. And that's exactly what Risacher is looking like he can really be. It is so important for the majority, if not all of the players on an NBA court, to be able to make a connective pass, to run a simple pick and roll, and to create for others to keep the ball moving. And Risacher has real upside as that second side creator and secondary or even tertiary playmaker. So middle of the clock, this is not their primary action here. They're just looking to get a good look off. Most of the shot clock has kind of run off now, and they're just going to improvise and swing it to Risacher to run this pick and roll. Risacher comes off the screen, attracts the hard hedge from the help defender, and his primary defender doesn't fully switch or really even hold up the roller here. Risacher is also looking at this defender and his teammate in the corner. As he's coming off the screen, he sees that this defender isn't rotating really much at all. He has both feet outside the paint, so Risacher is going to glance there, change the angle of his pass, freezes this defender, and delivers a perfect pass over these two initial defenders to his teammate, rolling to the rim for the easy dunk. One more time, this is the type of stuff that we see from second side creators all the time in the NBA. Not rocket science, but really good and decisive read. To have any on-ball equity or even secondary on-ball equity in the NBA, you essentially have to be able to run just a standard pick and roll. When we look at Risacher's numbers this season, he really struggled in terms of pick and roll scoring, as only 4.4% of his possessions came as a pick and roll ball handler, and he ranked in just the 14th percentile in scoring. When we include his passes, though, the frequency jumps to 10.8% of the time, and the scoring jumps to the 44th percentile. So even though Risacher wasn't much of a threat to score out of the pick and roll, he did show some really solid flashes in terms of being able to create for others and make the right read, as we can see here. So again, this is more Risacher acting in more of that kind of secondary creator role, and not the primary guy, which is what he'll likely be. So they run this little side handoff as he lifts out of the corner, and they flow straight into a high pick and roll. From here, it's just playing basketball and reading and reacting to what the defense is doing. The drop defender is playing more at the level as Risacher's defender goes over the screen. So Risacher continues to probe, and since this defender's a little higher up, Risacher is looking for what the roller is doing, what this weak side defender is doing, and where his teammate is relocating to. Risacher sees that the weak side defender is fully committed and really tagging the roller aggressively, which means that his teammate on the wing is going to be wide open. Risacher delivers a no-look pass, freezes that defender, all three defenders, just that extra split second by staring down the roller. Low contact, physicality going on over here, which frees up the wing shooter even more. Wide open look, shot just doesn't fall. But everything we see from Risacher here is exactly what you want to see from a secondary playmaker. It's the right read and just plain simple. Again, we can see how Risacher does have really solid floor vision and passing ability despite what the assist numbers may suggest. As the ball swings to him, again, nothing overly crazy here. It's just a high pick and roll, and Risacher just has to read and react to whatever the defense is doing. So as he comes off the screen, he now has both defenders basically on the ball, and he's reading this low man. He knows that he's in the paint already. He's going to be aggressively tagging the roller, takes that extra dribble, which draws the defender an extra step, changes the release point, and just makes a perfect skip pass to his teammate on the opposite wing. That's a ton of space. This shot should fall 90% of the time. NBA shooters will drop this home a little more consistently. Shot just doesn't fall. But again, everything we see from Risacher is solid. Now, the key going forward and having this translate to an NBA context is that Risacher has to improve as an on-ball scorer and ability to kind of get downhill, potentially let the mid-range shot fly a little bit, or else defenses aren't going to respect him or pressure him this much and stay home a little bit more on off-ball shooters. Where in an NBA context, this defender's probably dropping a little more aggressively, so this defender doesn't have to rotate quite as much as he does on this play. To exploit that, Risacher would need to attack this space and pull up for a jumper or attack downhill. We've seen that his interior passing is really solid, and in these last couple of clips, we've seen that he has that floor vision to exploit the weak side. However, he has to be able to put defenses in situations like this by further growing and improving upon his on-ball scoring. It might take some time, but we know that he has these types of plays in his bag. What's so fun about Risacher's offensive potential is when we see him put everything that we just went through together into one play, where we see the ability to attack a closeout, to relocate, to kick out of drives, and knock down threes all in one possession. So, again, Risacher's in an off-ball role. It's probably the role he's going to be in the NBA, but as he receives this kick out, the defense is now scrambling to close out and recover because of the high pressure that they applied at the point of attack. Risacher, a little jab step, attacks to his left, attacks middle, attacks downhill, gets his defender on his hip, which attracts this help rotation from, I guess now is technically the strong side. But Risacher, again, just plays simple. He doesn't force it. He doesn't try and barrel through contact. He just makes the kick out to his teammate who's open in the corner. As he does so, after doing so, he's now going to relocate over into the dunker spot to prepare for a potential offensive rebound. Once he sees that this shot isn't going up, he relocates all the way back out to the opposite wing and makes himself available to his teammate for a kick out who's now heavily under pressure. He knows he needs an outlet, so Risacher gives him one. Since his defender's trailing, little shot fake, gets him off his feet, and now Risacher just a little sidestep into an even more open, more in rhythm pull-up three, splashes it home. That's the stuff that we want to see from Risacher. The odds are he's probably not going to grow into some all NBA level on ball creator in the NBA. But by being able to consistently do this type of stuff, that's how he can elevate his team's offense. That's how he can be a more effective scorer, shooter, playmaker, and facilitator, and just all around offensive weapon. Zaccharie Risacher is such a fascinating and honestly polarizing prospect when we look at the 2024 NBA draft. Now, if we want to point to the questions and the red flags and the hesitations, there are a lot of them. The athletic testing was poor. His efficiency and volume on drives was really bad. He really struggled to finish around the rim in the half court, and the turnover to assist to turnover ratio was concerning. And the problem with all of that is that Risacher consistently gets talked about as a potential top first overall pick. And those are the types of things that we don't want to see from a traditional first overall pick. However, this isn't a traditional draft. There are so many questions, and the board, especially in the top 10, let alone the entire thing, is incredibly flat. So when we look at who's going to go first overall, it's probably going to be really fit-based. That isn't always necessarily the best way to draft, but when we look at what Risacher could be, and that's the whole point of the draft, is trying to gauge not only a player's talent today, but what can they grow into. And Risacher's is really exciting. He was never supposed to be, or historically, he's never been a shooter, but this year he was right around 40% over a 65-game sample. That's exactly what you want your percentage to be from, if not higher, from a really reliable and high-level off-ball scorer and shooter. The fact that he did it on such a substantial sample size really suggests that the shooting improvements are legitimate. It's not to say that he's going to be a career 40+% three-point shooter, but by all accounts, it seems like he's going to be a reliable off-ball scorer. And from that scoring, it's not just spot-up shooting. We've seen him execute movement shooting. We've seen him improve his shooting release where the release speed is so much quicker. And he's even experimenting with no-dip catch-and-shoot threes. It's high-level stuff. And from those situations, the improved shooting gravity draws more aggressive closeouts that he has shown flashes of being able to attack and score in different levels of the floor while also creating for others. So on the offensive end, there's still a lot of question marks with Zaccharie Risacher's game. The at-rim finishing needs to improve. The strength needs to improve. The playmaking needs to improve. The effectiveness and on-ball creation needs to improve. But he took such massive jumps from last year to this year that it feels silly to put a cap on how much more improvement there is left in his offensive game. There are real flashes of playmaking ability and the ability to be that second side creator, to create for others, to attack closeouts, to throw lobs, dump off passes, skip passes, making those simple reads. He probably isn't going to turn into a legitimate wing creator who's dicing up defenses and creating in isolation and manipulating defenders to create for others. But that's okay because the threshold for those types of players is so incredibly high. What Risacher can realistically really grow into is a dynamic off-ball scorer who's a lethal threat in transition and a really high level and consistent secondary or tertiary creator. There are real signs of craft and IQ in Risacher's offensive game. It's just how quickly can he reach the pinnacle of those skills. Zaccharie Risacher may not be the flashiest or have the highest upside on the offensive end in the 2024 NBA draft, but in a draft that's chock full of questions, his offensive role might actually be one of the easiest fits.